거죠. 그게 너무 지금 맞는 말을 같다는 거죠.
Yeah, live now.
Okay, cool.
넣으시겠네요.
It's you.
저요. 저 솔직히
Okay, I'm starting now.
Hi.
Hello.
Just a quick question. How many of us here are developers?
develop.
Solidity or mostly with what sort of programming language do you work with?
I use Solidity and Node, Python.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
Have you seen what happened to bZx recently?
No.
So what happened is they got drained out of their funds. They got exploited basically twice. Someone very creatively used there's this new thing called flash loans on the Ethereum blockchain. So what you can do is you can actually loan a really huge sum, and as long as you settle the transaction within that single block, you return back that sum, you will be able to do whatever you want with the money. So what they did was, they are basically they basically did separate exploits. So what they did was things which involves around flash loans as well as arbitraging the markets or exploiting some bugs. So that's one of the things which I would like to share for today.
이거 나갈게 보여준다고 하는데 제가 개발용어 잘 몰라가지고.
If you have not seen bZx before, do you know what bZx does?
Oh no.
No, we don't know about that.
I heard first.
So you can basically do things like margin trade, you can do lending, you can borrow. It's a bit like, it's not exactly like Compound, but Compound has some of their features as well, stuff like that.
So bZx is a service name? Is service name, is that?
Sorry?
bZx is a service name?
Yes, it's called, the company is bZx. They have services like Fulcrum, Talk, that's the name itself. But if you Google bZx, that's why you see the word Fulcrum here. Okay. So Fulcrum is I think it's their lending service. If I'm not mistaken, if it's borrowing, then it's Talk.
Pizza is just here.
We just started.
Okay. There will be more people joining us.
How do you want to start, Kevin? Have any suggestions?
저기 랜드가 빌려가는 거잖아요.
Start with the first time.
좀 이따가 나올 텐데. 다이를 빌려가면
Some of these links I will share later as well, because they go quite in depth.
So we have any cool people in first.
I'll see if anyone wants to come in.
웨딩인지 물어보고 싶어.
자기들이 bZx라고.
Hey Caleb,
Hi, how are you?
I don't know whether this is appropriate, but do you want the shirt?
와,
This is from Eve Temple. M right, you see.
Mine?
Nah, here you go.
Thank you, thanks.
I also want, bro.
Later, bro.
Yeah, I have to change the screen so.
Hey brother, how are you?
아니 공부하면 되죠. 아니요,
개발 얘기 막 나오고.
그럴 것 같아. 공부하죠.
Taking pizza related.
태원이 공부하시면 오히려 그런 게 저보다 방금.
Yo, the serious crowd is already in place.
Hi, cheers.
가볍게 설명드릴게요. 하시는.
How's it, boss? How are you? Not too bad yourself?
Good.
Yeah? You made it.
I made it.
You guys gonna need more chairs or no? You've sorted, eh? You've got plenty of chairs.
Yeah.
We didn't manage to open that, or you're not interested to open it?
Is it alright?
Yeah, it's alright.
No. Do you want to open this or you're not interested?
It's okay.
I think one more.
Cool. I can even take this chair out, right? You don't really need it. We've got plenty of them.
Hi, the usual faces.
Hey. Oh, open your arm.
I'm going to grab some pizza. You just continue.
Can you just go to grab the?
Sure.
That's why he didn't start yet. Let me grab you something.
Yeah, just took some pizza. Yeah,
Might as well come. How many? 1, 2?
I'll just put in a box or something.
Oh, okay. I'll pick a box.
I think that second.
Hi, nice to see you here.
Hello.
Oh boy.
I should have earlier than you guys. But
Federer.
Oh,
So
okay,
he
cool.
just reached.
So 2 hours
1.5. It's better than expected.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are.
Oh. Hi. Anybody tuning in?
I'll bring you some tissues.
The bread, oh.
Thanks, thanks.
Yeah, this one now. Hungry, I'm so hungry. You're gonna put your camera somewhere.
He's in Paris now. Yes, he's in. I should have mentioned it. Yeah, he's there for FCC.
Actually, I'm not sure why
I'm not sure if he's gonna stick around because he was meant to go to Vienna for EdCon.
You're live streaming
But
already.
I'm not sure if he's planning to stay or not.
Oh,
Shit happens. Yeah. We're gonna get Maker down here.
I didn't see the.
Maker? Yeah, I mean, last month, Jocelyn from Maker was supposed to be here, but yeah. Yeah, but we had to postpone it because of the whole corona. Guys, it might be a bit stuffy. Apologies for that. So I'm just gonna leave the door open. Sure.
Bring the fan in.
But it's a bit loud, if you bring it.
Never mind.
So I'll throw the question again. Anybody heard about what happened to bZx for the past week or so?
Sorry.
The past week?
Yeah, for the past week or so, yeah. Do you know what happened to bZx?
Not last week, no. Last week.
Do you know what bZx is? It's one of the DeFi sort of like websites where you can do things like you can margin trade, you can loan, you can borrow, you can basically do all the decentralized finance stuff.
Yeah.
So what happened was for the past week or so they got hacked continuously twice. Arguable whether it's hacked or not, but we are going to like sort of like go through it. So you guys can basically make up your mind. So for example, DeFi is bad for health and nobody should ever do it, stuff like that. So a quick reintroduction. So we know there are 2 hacks. One happening one after the other. Each one they have different profit margins. Both of them possibly done by different actors, but we are not too sure about that. Both of them they use quite different mechanisms. One targeting a bug within the contract, another one targeting basically the price oracles which bZx decides to use. So I just cover the first exploit. What I would basically do is I would sort of like assume that since I already briefly explained what bZx does, I would sort of like assume that you have sort of like played with some of the DeFi things and you would know things like flash loans. Does anybody not know what flash loans are? Flash loans, anyone? You can be rich for 15 seconds.
No, 1 block.
Extremely rich.
But I need to return back.
2 seats. Come and get them.
That's right.
Yeah, Harry hello here.
So, pick one. Does anybody know what flash loans are? Does anybody not know what flash loans are? Yeah, so flash loans, they are basically short-term loans, so you can take them out, you can do whatever you like with the amount of money, and as long as you return them by end of the transaction, you're fine. So you can be rich for that 15 seconds, 13 seconds, 1 block time, as long as you return the money in the end. It opens up a lot of possibilities because whatever which we assumed before, for example, voting, we assume that nobody is going to have 10,000 ethers at any point of time. This no longer holds true because we can now borrow this 10,000 ethers and sort of like vote with it. But flash loans, they are basically one of the main components which resulted in the bZx exploits. They are not really say the main components. bZx themselves, they also have certain bugs or certain issues with their constructs, but then again, it's because of flash loans, it enables quite a lot of things which we can do to sort of like bypass certain things. Right, so the first bZx exploit, I would not concede, I would say the first bZx exploit is more towards being a bug, because as we go through the steps on how the attacker did it, you will be able to see it's actually exploiting an aspect of the contract where it's supposed to actually stop that nature of exploit itself. If you decompile the contract or if you look through how the attacker does it, it's fairly sophisticated, and it's not a direct Oracle exploit. So there are two exploits. The first one, well, I already mentioned, it's most like, I would sort of like say it's a logic bug, but the second one, it's more towards an Oracle exploit. There are some people who thought the first one is an Oracle exploit, but that's not necessarily the case. So what happened is, the attacker did something, a sequence of market trades, and managed to come out with a lot of money from the contracts, from the bZx contracts. So what did they do is basically a sequence of 5 steps. First step, we need liquidity, so we will need to loan it from somewhere. There's another DeFi component called bZx, which we can do flash loans from. That's the exact function which they caught in order to get a balance of 10,000. So after the first step, this is what the attacker has, and you have to think of this as within a single transaction. So this is the first step within the same transaction. The attacker already started with 10,000. So this is flash loan from bZx. So the second step which the attacker done was that he would then send this ether to, whenever you see C token is something to do with compound. So he was basically minting WBTC. WBTC is basically wrapped BTC on the Ethereum blockchain. The reason why he's doing this, you'll see on the later, on the third step, is because he wants to set up for a short market on the bZx contract. So these are the functions. They sent in 5,500 ETH, gotten this amount of CETH, and converted it to WBTC, which is equivalent to 112 WBTC. So just keep this balance in mind. So right now he has 112 WBTC with 4,500 ETH. So a third step would be what I call the big brain one, because this involves the number of contracts, not just the contracts which bZx is involved in, but also, for example, some of the liquidity providers and things like that. So the first thing they did is they set up a short position on bZx. It's a 5x short. So what bZx does is this: when you set up a 5x short with 1,300 ethers, bZx will need to loan another times 4. So that's 5,200 ethers. It will need to go through its liquidity providers to see who has that amount of ethers for it to borrow from. Then only that it can sort of it's very much like if you are margin trading on Bitfinex as well. Yeah, when you say you have say a collateral of 300 ethers, then you go like margin 2 times. What it basically does is so it's borrowing from anyone who is setting up loans. It's very much basically the same concept here. So we borrow 4x from the IETH pool. It looks up Kyber for liquidity, which only Uniswap has sufficiently. So what happens is it's buying from Uniswap. Uniswap, it's an automated market maker by itself. So the more demand it is, the higher the price will get. So imagine at this point, you are forcing bZx to do the buys. and the price of WBTC against ETH went up. And in this case, it's a 5x short. So if it's a 5x short, usually it would be fine because, for example, even the dYdX contract, they have something to sort of like, so because the thing is, once you buy it from an external liquidity provider, you want to make sure that whatever collateral I'm setting up right here, it's enough to sort of like withstand this price slippage. That's why it's 20%. 20% because that for example, if I were to buy something for $4 and I'm putting up $1 of collateral, so I have to make sure that whatever I'm borrowing, the $4 here, does not eat into the fifth dollar. It does not go beyond the fifth dollar. But in this case, what happened to bZx is it ate way beyond the fifth dollar. When in fact there is a portion of the code which stops this. Rightfully it should be stopped because right now our entire borrow plus our collateral is way under the amount of slippage which we are sort of expecting. So the main question for me is that why did the slippage, why is the slippage not recognized to be over the 20% collateral, and why is it not stopped? So basically, why did the slippage protection not kick in? So if we were to, you can look up the contract on Etherscan. I can share this on the ETHKL group later, some of the more in-depth step traces which has been done. There is one parameter called mean reiter. It's from, I'll show this straight away. It's a proxy contract. This is the new contract. Yeah, I should have pasted the old contract. I have to see whether they fixed it. Yeah, so you can see mean reiter, it intentionally passes this, right? I will share this later on the group, but basically what happens is that the fact that it passes an empty string, in the end, when you look at the final, the final bZx proxy is not verified on Etherscan, sort of. There you go. So the last two empty codes you see right there is actually the loan data bytes. So what happens is from the very start, it cascades all the way down to this function. And since loan data bytes is always empty, equals to empty is always true, because this is true. So because the rest of the parameters are all properly filled in. So loan data bytes is true. It will never step into unhealthy position. This is actually the trigger point where it's supposed to stop the slippage from going over the short position which you're taking. So what happened here? The attacker have a balance of 3,200 ethers, 112 WBTC from earlier the compound position, 51 WBTC in bZx, but we don't really need to care about that because we don't have the intention to pay that back anyway. And a super cheap WBTC to ETH rate on Uniswap. Because remember just now we were buying shit tons of WBTC, so if right now we were to sell it, then we wouldn't be able to reap the results of it. So right now what the attacker does is 112 WBTC, just dump it back into Uniswap. And 6,871 ethers in return. So remember earlier the person have made a loan of 10,000 ethers from dYdX. He can now pay back that 10,000 dYdX. So last step, just repay dYdX. He's left with this sort of like chump change, but he still had that position with compound. Because remember that 112 WBTC which he took out from compound, he just need to repay that amount. So that's basically the sequence of attack.
Actually, why you need to go through compound? Sure, I don't get it. Why you need to buy WPC?
Because it's basically he wanted to set it up for short position. It's probably a few reasons. Maybe for example, he realizes that this market is rather illiquid, or possibly there's a good arbitrage opportunity for this one. Because it's like, for example, the next one, it's not targeting specifically it's not targeting the WBTC market, it's targeting something else. The next attack start targeting the synthetic SUSD basically. So in this case, what the attacker had done is that he spent this amount of ethers to get this amount of ethers back. So that's probably about 300,000 whereabouts. Any questions so far? Okay, the first one is a bit complicated, but the second one I think most people will be able to understand. The second one is just pure market arbitrage. Basically what the second guy was, he also used flash loans in order to manipulate the pricing of the Kyber network. If you go on to the contract on Etherscan, you decompile it, it's actually extremely straightforward. It's a few calls, and after that you can actually see the attacker doing each individual call one by one. So like I've mentioned, it's probably an exploit. I wouldn't call it a hack. Oracle arbitrage trade. Like I said, the exploit contract by itself is fairly simple. If you have a few months, or maybe if you have a few months with solidity, I think you'll be able to come out with it. Yeah, so as usual, anything with sort of like all this arbitrage or sort of like market manipulation, the first thing we need is liquidity. So as usual, flash loan from bZx. In this case, it's not borrowing from bYDX, it's borrowing directly from bZx themselves. Flash borrow token, he borrowed 7,500. So imagine in this case, you're the attacker, you have 7,500 right now. So how would you use the 7,500? The attacker uses 900 ethers to buy synthetic USD from Kyber. So Kyber, well, the more you buy, the demand goes up, the price increases as well. Interestingly, he did 19 transactions in total, which leaves him with a balance of 6,600 ethers. So right now, imagine the scenario where we have synthetic USD probably about, I think it's about 1.9 or 2 US dollar. So the next thing he needs to do, exchange ETH to SUSD. This is where he had went to the vaults at Synthetics themselves. He sent in the amount of ether to obtain a certain sum of synthetic USD. So in this case, what he has done is that he has traded in 3,517 ethers for an X amount of synthetic USD. I think it was close to 1 million during the time. This amount was refunded. So right now, the mental image you should have is right now, he has 3,082 ethers on hand, with the rest being synthetic USD. So what would he do with the synthetic USD? So he would use the synthetic USD, go back to the bZx contract, and borrow something out of it. Because right now, remember the synthetic USD, the value is no longer $1, it's probably closer to $2. So for a worth of 3,517 ether worth of synthetic US dollar, he pumped it into the bZx contracts. He got 6,796 ethers in return. That's nearly double the rate now. So this is the grand sum he had. So remember, right now what's happening is that because bZx, they get their price feeds from Kyber. The attacker earlier had manipulated Kyber's price feed. And all this is taking part in a single transaction. So so far, you guys getting this? So right now, basically what the attacker needs to do is just to pay back bZx for whatever amount he had loaned from them during step 1, which is 7,500. And he's left with a grand sum of 2,378. The second hand is actually a lot more profitable than the first one, and it's simpler. It's a lot simpler. So So right here, he does have a position with bZx because remember he's borrowing the token from deposit, so he had to deposit something and an X amount of it of synthetic US dollar into bZx. But right now he can profit and can just walk away. So that's why you hear bZx talking about liquidating the loans of the attacker to sort of like pay back the interest. That's basically where they're getting it from. Because whenever you do a borrow from bZx, for example, you need to put some collateral into it. So that's basically where they're tapping into it. So yeah, right now possibly if everybody decides to withdraw from bZx, it's going to cause them some problem. But as long as their interest rate is high enough to sort of like cover things, then yeah, so definitely is interesting. Anybody wants to go? Because right now,
So how much do you need to return? Like, cause it's not 7,500. They must have a loan like payment.
because remember, it's the flash loan taken out is separate from the position he took.
Okay.
From the SUS dollar which he put in to withdraw the tokens, the ETH in this case.
Okay.
So it's not intercorrelated. It's not correlated. It doesn't correlate now. So what he just needs to do is to pay back that flash loan of 7,500.
Yeah, but I think there are something on top of the 7,500 right? for the how to say that like in Anve context it usually say that it's some debt like interest.
Yeah, you're right. But I think if I'm not mistaken, for the first hand DYDX, they charge actually quite negligible. I'm not even sure if it's more than 1%. It's quite negligible because in the end the person walked away with very close to 2,370 whereabouts. So in fact it's if you want to be rich for one block, you can just learn some solidity and then after that withdraw and after that return back. So in this case, how would the exploit contract look like? I did take some time to go through the compiled source codes. Basically, it's just the 5 steps. They flash borrow token from bZx, so that's the part where they borrowed 7,500 Ethers. Withdraw. This is actually withdrawing from WETH, if I'm not mistaken. But in this case, they are withdrawing in order to swap the Ether to token on synthetic US dollars. So it's basically these 5 functions. There will be one part where they need to loop the swap Ether to token because what they have done is they have pumped in 19 transactions where I'm not sure why, but 18 of the transactions were in 20 Ether chunks, and there was one which was about, I think it was 360. Actually, I got the numbers wrong. 540, sorry. So 900 ETH in total. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, at this point, the attacker doesn't even need to repay the stuff done at step 5 and walk away with profit. So, I mean, if you have time, I actually would encourage you to go check out. If the first hack is a bit convoluted, that's fine. It took me a while to understand that as well. But the second one, I would encourage you to just go and look at it. I will encourage you to have some time and you know some bit of solidity, you can go through the source codes and see what they basically done. So if you were to look at the actual flash loan plus attack transaction, it should be this. You can see actually it's everything is done within one application. Yeah, so that's the nature of flash loans. So if you can take that loan, provided that users pay back at the end of the at the end of transaction. In between, you can do whatever you want with that amount of liters. So go forth and make some riches.
What was the original intent for flash loans?
I have no idea.
Beautiful.
But I mean,
Like leverage trading, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of it coming around.
For the time of one transaction.
Yeah.
Leverage trading.
I don't know.
It's just,
Maybe, I mean, maybe.
but yeah, I mean, outside of sort of like leverage trading, I guess the least malicious thing I can think of is really leverage trading, or having very high amount of liquidity at short time. Because really, you can't really incur interest on it or stuff like that. But one of the things, a lot of people they are talking about.
For voting, right? Like you said, for voting.
But actually, the original intention was quite noble because they wanted to make sure that they wanted to come up with a class of loans where you don't need to over collateralize. You can be under collateralized.
Zero collateralized.
Can you do zero on that?
Yeah, it's literally zero. As long as you pay back.
Yeah, that's true.
Basically, if you don't pay it back by the end of the block, the transaction fails.
Yep.
So what's actually scary was I was also talking with some other developers. Actually, yeah, we have functions like truffle fork. You can use truffle fork to basically fork and run it locally and see how it works. Or you can just use all the same. We don't really need to execute the transaction. Just put some booleans involved to see how it works out. Yeah, you could create a DeFi contract, put it online. People they are testing out, exploiting it at the back. You won't even know about it. So I mean, is there any thoughts so far?
So the biggest problem is the Oracle problem. Maybe it's not for that. I mean, that problem has been occurring, but this is because of the flash loan. It makes it more, substantial.
Because previously the assumption was that they could probably carry it out, but then again we wouldn't have enough money. The assumption was
They need to be daring to bring in their own money.
10,000 and plug it in.
Now it's business for them except for the fees.
True. I mean, do you see any other use case for flash loans other than
Arbitrage, making the market stable, like Kyber swap the difference in the DAI to Ether.
You
Then
make so little, you only
I
make.
mean, people do flash loan with that.
Right.
Yeah, because I think if you on Uniswap, if you do something like very low liquidity stuff, the moment you swap wrongly or something you did mess up, if you want to like, or what do you call that, like roll back, you are too late. The bots come in with less loan.
That's also I guess that's one of the reasons why the bZx decides to go for Chainlink as the oracle. Kyber actually has a big disclaimer there. If you use us as a price feed, please note that people can trade against you and cause discrepancy in the price. Kyber actually did mention that.
It's a disclaimer.
So if we were to think about a solution, what would you think? Just make several oracles that.
Oracle is one thing. I guess another thing is also sort of like slippage protection.
Slippage protection.
Slippage protection is quite important. I mean, sure, but I am not too sure if there's anyone who wants to like trade at a premium of 50% in the market unless the person is really desperate. Another thing. That's I guess one of the more recent ones also. Iron I have to look through to see exactly what happened, but it's also because of slippage in the end. Because one of the components is connecting to doesn't have slippage protection, so it cascades into Iron's aggregation strategy. So in the end, Iron also put in a slippage protection on their own contracts.
Play this.
What? No. Yeah, just researching about stuff.
I think at the end Oracle is going to be a hard problem. Like status protection or emergency queue switch shutdown. I mean, they could sort of like make it in such a way that if someone trades above a certain threshold, then stop it. Right? I mean that's not good for freedom, but it's mitigation. Even for us, when we query the prices from different exchanges, we actually have a queue switch as well. Like the price jumps above a certain percentage, we just like ignore it. Because it doesn't make sense. But we are centralized, so we can do it. But
You ignore that particular oracle.
sorry?
You take one of you.
Yeah, we
suppose
remove the one sample from the whole thing.
So
Because it doesn't make sense.
that's what happened with synthetics actually, with the Korean won a few months ago. So they were dependent on only one price feed for the Korean won, and they had several arbitraging bots going back and forth, and then the oracle for the Korean won started misbehaving. So the price was not correct, and the arbitraging bot just made a lot of money out of it. Was not even on purpose. It was just a simple arbitraging situation, and so that person all of a sudden goes back to his computer and sees like he's literally billionaire in Korean won and in synthetic Korean won, and the whole system was in a whole lot of trouble. And I think at the end, synthetics managed to contact that person, which is also scary.
True.
And
It's not decentralized anymore.
exactly.
Or maybe it's one of those arbitrage bots which they set up as market makers. I'm not sure.
Could be. So they managed to like pay off. I think it was like 50K USD as like a bounty, a bug bounty sort of thing. Like they marketed it like that, but it was like, please don't fuck up the system, please. We'll pay you, return this money, and it ended up well. Here, nope.
Did you know how they fixed it in the end?
So since they only had one price feed, they just blocked the Korean won, and you couldn't trade Korean won in synthetics.
They switched to Chainlink.
Oh.
Now they have, but
Now
before they
they
didn't
have.
have it yet. Yeah.
So the Korean won is actually a paid API.
Okay.
So it's like some maybe like XE or some professional run API, and it can fail, right? So like even for us, when we look at Coinbase Pro, you would think that nothing will go wrong, but there's a point in time where there will be a flash crash or something wrong with the system where things are returning zero, even for something that's so trusted, like Coinbase or even a professionally run API. So you cannot trust any sources. You have to just Chainlink is also the same. Like you're just diversifying your risk across as many providers.
So how do you fix your price feed? You get from many sources.
Yeah, I get from as many sources. Yeah. So like for coins that are only traded on one exchange, there's a very high likelihood that the price is not going to be accurate.
Yeah. Especially like there's so many there's only a limited amount of places where you can trade. Mostly the coins are not there, and also the liquidity on those places, the volumes of exchange might not be representative at all. The depth of the pool might not be big enough, so it's really hard to get it right. So that's why I think that only fixing the oracle problem is not enough, but something like slippage protection or maybe putting limits on how much you can trade in a particular in one block, for example, that could be.
I think also one thing is that for developers, because we just go through security audit, I think what I heard from bZx, the founder, is said that they also need to go through some economy check, which is I don't think anyone doing it when they deploy anything. Yeah. Yeah, just to make sure that the incident does not happen again.
I was just wondering whether this will be caught during fast testing. Especially the first one, because they basically put in empty strings.
And there's so many projects coming up, like DeFi is all the rage. There's like so many stuff, like when you deploy the composability nature of DeFi makes it impossible to test for all the cases, because like maybe okay, I'm going to deploy this and it's safe now, and then there's this other new protocol that somebody can use to build on top, and
Turn things around. Yeah. Right. So for my side, that's pretty much it. Unless anyone else has something to share, something interesting to talk about.
Do you put a weightage for each? Like, let's say you take from several sources. How much percentage you trust that particular?
So yes, the weightage comes from the volume,
Okay, and number of transactions? No.
number of transactions.
Yeah.
I think the data is available.
No, we do not use the number of transactions. We actually, so our formula is very simple, like weightage volume, and then we use this thing called a median average. So if you use straight up median, your result will get fast up across different coins. So basically your median will have to always change depending on I can't remember the formula on top of it. Actually everything is documented on our site. You can go to the FAQ
Okay,
on
okay.
how we actually have the formula.
Okay.
Basically just these two things that we use. Yeah, and then we implemented this thing called a scoring system for all the exchanges that looks at the spread and the order book depth. But at the moment we're not using that yet as a weightage for the average price. Yeah.
Okay.
Because some exchange may have very nice volume, but their spread and depth is terrible. So that could also be something that we can use to determine the weightage for our pricing index. For things like Bitcoin, we actually take the only about 10 to 15 exchanges that has fiat on ramps, because there's like more than 1,000 over different sources to take from, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to take all of them.
Yeah.
But it's the same issue for derivative exchanges like
Yeah.
BitMax, FTX.
Yeah.
BitMax, if you remember, like they take the sources from 3 exchanges, Kraken, Coinbase, and one more, I can't remember, Bitfinex or something. And there was one period where one of them reported the wrong price, or someone moved I think BitMax changed their algorithm where one of the exchange has higher representative or something like that. So someone went in there and moved the market, and then everyone get forced liquidated in BitMax. Yeah. Because the price of the exchange moved temporarily for the period of time. So if you over leverage, you're gonna get wiped out on BitMax. Yeah. So even for FTX, they have a lot of derivative products. Most of them are only from one source, which is Binance. So at one point when they were starting out, Binance had a maintenance, and then the derivative continued to trade, right? So what happens is that obviously there are a lot of bad things happen. So FTX, they were just starting out, so they actually reverse all the trades. So everything that has happened, they just reverse them. So those who made money, they are angry. Those who lost money, they're happy. So that was the early days of FTX. Now, I don't know what controls they are putting in to avoid that, but because there are so many coins, not all of them are traded on the major exchanges.
Yep. Don't blame shit.
When your contract is receiving Ether, is there a way to check? I mean, there is a way to check whether Ether is originating from like a address that is backed by a private key versus a contract. But is there a way to like check? Is it 20 Ethers being like loaned out, or is this 20 Ether that is actually just sitting in a contract? Or what's backing this like amount of Ether that is being sent into it?
Off the top of my head, there's no inbuilt solidity function for that. No, I don't think so. Because you need to check state. If you need to check state,
Not really. It's kind of like stateless, right?
Yeah.
because the thing is, when you move, say for example, when you're moving ETH from one contract to another contract, what happens is the state which calculates account balances would happen first. So if that's the case, you wouldn't be able to. If it happens last, you probably could still check some things. But as it happens first, no, I don't think so.
Can you check the balance of previous block? No, right?
Could you blacklist coins that come from a flash loan?
So we have two things where we can. We have two. Okay, so we will need to first see where the address came from. So where the transaction came from, we have two functions to do this. One is message.sender, and another one is tx.origin. But if we were to say blacklist that particular contract, what we can do, then just use a proxy contract to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How many steps back could you check? You couldn't. You couldn't go more than one.
You can always put another layer to bypass another proxy or proxy.
Yeah, exactly. At some point, you'd have like.
Is there maybe like I'm just trying to? I mean, I think everyone's here trying to figure out creative ways of solving this. Like, is there a way to like build some Oracle outside who just does like audit of the, you know?
But since it happens in the same block, it must be so hard, no? So to
I
have
don't-
something outside.
We could probably do something like you have to commit, then after that on the second. Yeah, but this will be really bad for
Maybe
UX.
you're wrong. Maybe you're wrong.
Two blocks.
It will be really bad for UX, but we can do something like commit review schemes where you have to commit to doing a certain action, then on the next block you have to send in your prior commit. So it doesn't happen in the same block, but then again that will be quite bad for UX.
So it's called Thunderloan. Because
Yeah, you hear it after.
Was Iron also exploited by Flash loan, or what's the story? I'm not very familiar.
Oh, I don't have to check. Yeah, it happened just a couple of days back, so I didn't have the chance to really go through. But it wasn't flash loans. It was more of slippage. Because the person was actually doing it on individual transactions.
Okay.
So it was a slippage on one of, I think it was the curve fee.
And it was also a ZAP transaction.
Oh, it's a ZAP.
Yeah, it's a ZAP transaction.
So anyone can just keep abusing the take advantage of this situation.
From what I remember is the owner swapping out their BUSD for the USDC. So what they do, you keep doing the transaction and there's a slippage there and another person saw the slippage and take advantage of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so both of them have been contacted. Then the person gaining has actually deleted his social media and left with 140 something thousand USD. Dangerous in fact.
Gabriel something, some Brazilian guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's nice to see like interest rates of above 8%. That's usually higher than fixed deposits. You see some really crazy ones. Like I think bZx right now the ETH pool is nearly 20+%. But then again, be prepared to lose some money if anything as well.
So if you guys want to do something like that, please don't use the address where you have bought an ENS domain that has your name. That's how they found the Brazilian guy, because he did it from the same address that bought the ENS domain with his name and surname, actual legal name and surname. And he was also doing the transactions manually, so he was obviously not so technical. He was smart, but maybe not that smart. Yeah, probably.
I mean,
Tornado
he
cap.
wasn't expecting that. I mean, if he was expecting that, he would be moving Tornado
Yeah.
and then get up some.
You probably just see like, for example, it's just probably thought it was this market opportunity there. And use Tornado Cash, a mixer. Have you guys played with this?
Oh yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You deposit into it, then after that you wait for the anonymity set to go up, then after that you withdraw from it.
So if you're a thief, the way you use it is you exploit, you get the money into an address, then from address go into Tornado, and then wait, and then take out Tornado.
So eventually just like, but I guess if you have the huge sum of money, right now I think Tornado Cash does it.
How many pools are
You click 100 Ether, they got actually a lot.
I think you can just click that and it'll show you.
Is there a lot?
Split the DNS.
Holy shit! Okay, not bad.
Yeah, the Brazilian wait for a couple.
I mean, for depending how much money is at stake, 138 is trivial for a, like it's an anonymity set that's quite small for a legal agency, say of like United States or.
100 ETH is just 20,000.
You can automate this.
Yeah, but if you do a few of them, so if you have hacked for 100,000 or like, I don't know, like 1 million, you'd have to do a lot of them. So 138, most of them will have to be you at the end.
Right, yeah.
Let's say, for example, the second hack 2,000, 2,300, that would be like 23 out of 150 whereabouts, 160 whereabouts. Yeah, that's still quite a huge percentage.
How long does it take to mix your and then withdraw?
Oh, this one you just deposit into it, just wait for as long as you like. Well, don't deposit, then after that withdraw it straight away.
Yeah.
It's basically telling people.
Yeah.
That was me. From the same IP as well. And
So you see the So one of the better practice is to keep putting into the tornado, and then throughout time you withdraw back to an account, so you can use that particular account for different things like the bZx.
Is a withdrawal fixed amount or
Yeah, fixed amount.
one transaction only?
You have that commit.
Yeah, there's some sort of coupon which they give you.
Yeah. So you use that coupon.
CK proof.
Yeah, exactly.
But how is it really anonymous? Because on your address there will be a log that you interacted with Tornado, right?
Meta transactions.
yeah.
Oh, and that transactions? Okay.
It's like the dead note guys will know better. Layers,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
For
based
withdrawal, you mean withdrawal you use a meta transaction, right?
But
for withdrawal, yes.
for sending in, you have to interact with the contract. As if on the address.
Sending in.
So to send in, yes, you will always know that you have sent money, and you will always know that you have received money. So if you have funded an address from Tornado, you will always know. You can always see that this address was born with or was seeded first of all with Tornado funds, but you cannot know who seeded it. So because it comes from Tornado, and Tornado, like as you see, there's an anonymity pool of like X amount of users, and it could be from any of those 700 that have put something there. So there's, even if you keep the logs from here, you'll have like at least 762 IPs, or at least not maximum 762 IPs, and from which one of them did it came the deposit that funded my account now? It's very hard. Like, so it plays on numbers.
Because Ethereum is account based, right? So once it goes into a Tornado contract, it's just a number that would then be deducted and go into someone's account.
Mhm.
Whereas if it's Bitcoin, the input and output will be, the mixer really does the job of mixing the
Yeah.
input and output.
Yeah.
So which is why I couldn't really differentiate the mixing process between Tornado and Bitcoin, because for Tornado it's like there will be an interaction with the contract. The mixing part is, yeah, somewhat, but because there's no input and output, there's not really a actual mixing, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's basically like we all throw like coins in a jar,
Right.
and then we remember how much did you put one, and then you have to take
it
as
back,
much.
right.
So you will not know if that was your coin or not.
Right.
But
And also from the perspective of withdrawal, what you would see is you see a function called to the Tornado Cash contract, and it deposits that amount to another address. So who's the owner of the address, you won't know as well.
Oh, okay, so I use my current address, I fund the contract call, and it will go to another address. Right, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen on that because we have to wait for the anonymity set to grow, so it doesn't exactly happen on the next block. Say.
Right.
So you deposit it, you'll be produced with a node, then using the node you can redeem it. So you just put it back onto the website, you specify which is the withdrawal.
Okay. But the contract call will have the recipient address too, right? For that one.
so I think the main use case here is to create new addresses that are clean, because when you create a new address, if you want to interact with a smart contract, you have to fund it, and you will fund it mostly from your main address, and then it's really easy to track
Yeah.
which accounts are
So you're
yours.
creating another proxy addresses to go through, and in this case, it's much more concealable with Tornado, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the main use case. You could also do transfers, but it's not practical because it's fixed amounts, so you can't really choose how much you're sending to the other person. But so as it is conceived now, the biggest use case is for you to withdraw your own in another address.
Or what you could do is you can write the note down, it's a bunch of strings, write the note down, put it inside Ampao and say, yeah, I just need to withdraw it from this website.
Oh. Tornado.
So it becomes sort of like an Ampao note or something.
So what's the amount of ETH that you're comfortable in consistently putting into Tornado? Like, I mean, it's audited and it's still an experimental, right? So, I mean, Kevin mentioned that it's a good practice to keep recycling your ETH, but to what amount that is deemed to be safe?
The amount which you are willing to lose.
Yes. Is there a reason why they fix the amount?
Oh, yes, there is actually. Yeah, I mean, if you allow people to put in random amounts, then if I put in 0.46, then after that I withdraw 0.46, it's obvious I did the withdrawal lah. So if you fix the amount, that everybody has the same deposit amount and the withdrawals amount. So
You can always come out with several coupons or whatever to redeem, right? With random amounts of
but that would require
random
even
amounts.
tracking the balance. I don't think the current contract actually. Okay, I need to check this out whether they use different. Because right now, what we can do is that on the contract we can just track a specific number of ethers. So because the data structure which I'm using can grow quite big. So if they allow for any arbitrary amount right here, I would imagine the data structure they're using will end up growing rather huge.
So it would be more expensive.
Guess cost wise, I mean eventually the contract itself will grow to a super huge amount. Because right now you need to keep on each leaf, you need to keep also as well the value.
I tested it on Coven. It's quite expensive, the gas fee for Tornado. No. Is it because to generate a ZK proof? Okay. Makes sense.
Also to store it's also to store the bunch of information.
I see.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on Ethereum, so give it a try. Play around.
So why did Nexus Mutual agree to pay the first hack,
Because
but
the first
not the
one,
second one?
the first one is it's considered a bug.
The second one is quite similar.
The second one is an arbitrage.
Arbitrage.
The first one it's actually the slippage protection should have kicked in. They shouldn't allow, because the thing is the margin trade is 5x, so they shouldn't have allowed the position to be unhealthy in the first place. That's why there's a requirement. But then again, because of a bug, they passed in an empty parameter which allows it to go through.
Okay. So, yeah, can you explain that again now that we have a little bit of time? Okay, I didn't quite get the empty string and the fact that it was hard coded that the value would be 0.
Let me go through some of my notes right here.
Is it an inherit contract because it's calling the same functions?
Yeah, it's inherited in a sense, because later you see the iLoan token, and after that the address, you call another contract. So this is where it originated from. So after it done all its stuff on the external contracts, it comes into mean with ether. So mean with ether, when it does the call, it calls mean with the second function, but this is basically an overload because there's an extra parameter here. So you can see here right now here is an empty string.
What's the purpose for this empty string?
I'm not sure actually. I have no idea how they designed this. When I look through the comments, they mentioned this parameter is supposed to come from Kyber only. So I'm not too sure what they actually decided it for.
Oh wait, no.
So yeah, it's so right now, yeah, remember earlier the loan data mice is empty, so basically it just cascades all the way through.
So maybe Kyber requires to
Kyber
pass
probably some
sort of
extra
string in order to interact with it.
That's
And then here's like, okay, I'm just going to pass you an empty string. Okay.
I think one of the things also because bZx they have quite a lot of contracts linking to one another. Could just be a mistake. Yep. There you go. Mean with token, they still pass in an empty string right here.
Yeah. Loan data bytes.
We go to function mean with token.
It's an overload function.
Mean with token is a separate function maybe, but earlier the mean with ether, yes, it's an overloaded
Mean with
function.
ether, yeah. So I was like, so weird.
Yep. So it triggers position.
See, loan data bytes. Return loan data bytes.
So this is from earlier, it's already empty.
Yeah, it was commented on the empty string loan data bytes.
So it was mean with token. token.
Loan data byte. See, there's a comment next to the empty string up there. Return means yeah, loan data bytes.
And this is just saying that this parameter is loan data bytes.
Yeah.
Token. To this. So we trigger the position. I think at this point you would probably call the short contract. Yeah, so right here, yeah, this one is another contract already. They have since then changed the, yeah, they have really fixed this actually. So this is what it was back then. So this is the logic contract. Let's look for margin trade. So remember the loan data bytes is empty. And use. Leave. Check your margin. Token and use. For token and use, still the same loan data bytes. Take order from I token. Yeah, but from here onwards they did not verify the contract. So if you go to this contract, this is a proxy contract. If you look for it, the implementation is actually not verified. Oh, right now this one is a new implementation. The previous implementation was the same as well, it's not verified. So yeah, how was I sure? I did do a quick check for the signature. This particular one. It's in there, so it's definitely one of the contracts which was being caught. But if you look at the code, you should be able to see take order from iToken. Yes. So this should be take order from iToken. So what did they say about loan data bytes? Nothing much. So there you go. It's actually 3 contracts linked to one another. I can share on the group later the stack trace, the full stack trace right here. It says Skybo only, I'm not too sure what the design intention was. So yeah, that's why in the end the auditors came on and say it's most likely it's actually a bug. That's why an estimation side of it. But the second one is just Oracle sort of like manipulation. But I did notice the first time they rejected the claim because they were thinking it was a arbitrage sort of like that. Anything else you guys want to see? Otherwise, we can join that outside.
Anything from you? No? Okay.
I'm just going to show a new exploit.